Okay, we're going to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another cool collaboration for you from the brand Belmont Watches. Well, I should say the shop. The brand is Seiko. And there's just so many good ones out there, and you know, I can't own them all, although sometimes I really want to. And that is the case with this Marine Master 200 reduced that you guys see before you. I do own the blue dial black bezel variant. Recently was able to check out the Steely with the steel bezel insert and the black dial, and honestly, out of all of them, I think this is probably the best looking in terms of like the one that I want to look at. But in terms of wearability, I'm happy I got the blue one because that is the one that I will wear, and it is different than my SPB207 and and my 317. So there's a lot of differentiation to where it works in my collection. But in terms of just like which one do I look at and go, oh wow, like that is, that's the prettiest or the handsomest one, it has to be this one. So a little bit about the brand. Seiko was founded back in 1881. They're Japanese in origin, but now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end. And then in terms of the type of watch, this is a dive watch. Some key characteristics and design language you're looking for a diver. Of course, water resistance, typically through some type of screw down crown. You want something that's tough, legible with a dive time bezel, and a dive extension is always nice if on bracelet. This is a Prospex SPB207. And it's basically a modern reinterpretation of Seiko's original 1968 Marine Master Diver. And this particular colorway is the 140th anniversary at 6,000 units each, limited edition in this island green colorway. They go for $13.50 MSRP from Seiko, but definitely check the links for the pricing and availability from Belmont Watches in San Diego. I don't think they actually they let me check this one out before they even took pictures of it to put a listing up. So when you watch this, if you immediately want to buy one from them, and I'm sure it'll be at some level of a discounted price, down from MSRP, definitely just check the links and dig around, or give them a call if you want to order it, just because I think this video might be posted before they have the listing up. But with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, so another big shout out to Belmont Watches, and as you guys can see, very inclusive in terms of packaging. This is brand new, purchased from a Seiko authorized dealer, so you're gonna get all the information here, all the booklets. You're gonna even get your warranty card that's even filled out. Can't show you what's in there though, because I don't know, that seems to be kind of a no-no. It feels like you get the limited edition box, you're getting it's even, there's baggies over all this stuff. I just pulled the baggies off so I could show you guys. It even comes with this great silicone strap, and then of course this colorway is really what takes the cake on here, guys. Check this piece out, my goodness. And it's a really deep emerald green that I'm sure on camera is definitely probably rendering a little bit darker than you would see. And so I'm looking forward to getting into some low light transition with you guys, just so you can get a better idea of just how beautiful this kind of almost British racing green appears. And then with the gold play on the accent, even the red kind of stoplight second hand, it all just flows extremely well. I can already tell I like this silhouette. It's a nice one. You can see also how vibrant the blue is by comparison to the more sedate green tone. So this is actually a pretty wearable green, so if you're not wearing green, or you don't wear a lot of green, this will still go. It's just generally earthy, but it'll look quite black in a lot of lighting situations, which I think is really cool. And then it just comes out as a lot more vibrant. So man, this makes me almost reconsider just because the green is actually very wearable. But in terms of the dimensions on this bad boy, it has a 42mm diameter, 12.5mm thick, with a 48.7 lug to lug. It's stainless steel, brushed with polished highlights, and then of course you're getting that Dia Shield hard coating on there, which is going to help with scratch resistance. And it's a great look. In terms of the bezel action, one of the better bezels that Seiko does. I mean, pretty much all the stuff they do within this $1,000 range definitely is very nice and very dialed in. nice balance between clickiness and smoothness, because you don't want it to be too clicky, you don't want it to be too smooth and easy to turn. You can see everything lines up beautifully, guys. Another benefit of, let's say you buy from Belmont versus anybody else that's just using stock photos, the unit you buy is the one you were looking at. And then if we get a little back play, we click it back, but you can see that basically within that little amount of leeway, you can just set it perfectly in the center. So very, very nice, and something that is absolutely within the thought process whenever you buy a Seiko. So it's nice. I will say I've seen more often than not now things being lined up. I think, you know, they went through some rough patches. It happened. Same thing with like Benchmade knives, right? So let's see, flat sapphire, which I really like. As much as I enjoy a nice dome and whatnot, I do enjoy the ultimate legibility of the flat. You can see there's no distortion. You do get a little bit of a chamfer, so you can get a little bit of light play on there. But generally, this is just going to render very clear. And it does have an anti-reflective coating that's clear, so you're not going to get like a bunch of different tones introduced into the color palette. It's going to be still very clear. So even if I bounce all the light from the studio light off of it, you can see it's not adding any coloration. It just appears white. But this does look really awesome. I mean, I like this watch a lot. I'm actually really surprised that these aren't more popular. I feel like this, you know, when SKXs were really popular, like everybody was like modding to make poor man's Marine Masters, and then now that there's one available, I mean, I shouldn't say, I mean, at this price tag, I guess you can't call it a poor man's, you know, but it's just sick. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. Just, woo, the lines. I mean, this thing just shouts Seiko, and I love that about it. You know, you do have the crown here offset closer to the 4 o'clock versus a traditional 3. It's just a great look. And again, the color play on here with the gold, the green, the black, the pop of red, you know, the gold text there on the dial. I really enjoy that. Now, so you did get 120 click bezel insert, and you're also seeing that the Loom pip is shielded. So you can see right there, there's a little bit of crystal that's on top of that, which is great. And then, hey, you know, another great thing about Belmont watches is they have some great microfiber cloth, so I can get the little fingerprints off of this for you guys. Oh, maybe I didn't rub hard enough. So very nice. And then getting into the movement, as you guys know, this has a 6R35 in it. Some benefits of the 6R35 over the 6R15 is you're getting a 70-hour power reserve versus a 50-hour power reserve, 24 joules versus 23 joules, and then everything else is, you know, pretty much the same. You're getting the Sprung hairspring. Then if you go down a notch into the 4R movements, those are only going to have about a 40-hour power reserve, maybe a 42-hour, and they're not going to have the Sprung hairspring, which means they're going to be a little bit more susceptible to being magnetized. And yeah, I mean, otherwise it's still a very similar architecture going back to the 7S26 that we all loved in the SKX 009 and 007. It's solid though, so you can't see. You have the nice medallion underneath. Again, all this stuff is all brand new, so it's got all the little stickers and pasties and everything on there. But if I can easily show you guys more, or you can check out the full review of this unit here if you really want to get into those details. Now, in terms of this dial, you do get those nicely done raised indices. They're not applied. They're just kind of punched from the back, and then they're filled with Loom and painted over with Loom. And then, of course, all the dial finishes are done really well. There's a nice sun ray underneath, and then on top of that, there's like a layer of kind of a matted clear coat, which has a little bit of a texture to it, which I think looks really clean and crisp. So very nice. We do get, of course, that dark green sunray dial texture, which looks great. The date at 3 o'clock, and then now with that little extra ISO compliant loom plop there, right in that outer ring. Some people love it, some people hate it. No, nobody loves it. Let's not kid ourselves. That some people hate it, some people are okay with it. We'll leave it at that. And it has Seiko's Lumabrite, which is great. Those handsets look fantastic, guys. Just really bold. You're getting that two-tone finish on there, so it's going to be fine regardless of the lighting condition or what it's reflecting off of, because you're going to have a matte surface paired with a high polish surface. And then, of course, that gold second sand is going to be ultimately legible throughout. You do have 20 millimeter lugs. You're getting a nice taper from 20 down to 18 millimeters on this 3-link style bracelet with the flat centers and then the rounded outers, and then you do get these nice chamfers in between, which really suits this case style because it's round, but it also has these nice flat you know, there's the curvaceousness generally there, but then there's also some wonderful, oh man, look at that, some edges and some geometry. Look at that. That is just gorgeous, guys. Look at how crisp the transitions are in between that fine polishing, I'm sorry, the fine brushing, hairline brushing, high polished. I wouldn't be surprised if this was Zaratsu, but you just never know unless it's, you know, advertised on Seiko's site. But I mean, look at that. It's that is beautiful, and that's one of the things that makes Seiko so awesome, and it's one of the reasons why people raved about Seiko when they were taking advantage of the yen rate exchange, and you still can, guys. Honestly, there's a lot of JDM dealers that are out there that are selling all these units for, you know, a good amount less. So the deals are still out there, and then the nice thing is, again, if you're in the US or even if you're local to San Diego, Southern California, you can give these guys a check, or you can just call them or go on the website and order from them. And again, you're ordering a unit that you've seen live here, and you're seeing, and when you see pictures of it and whatnot, in terms of how everything comes together, you know, no big eyesores or anything like that, which is really nice, and I think helps with the worrying. So with that said, you know, before we get into loom shots on this, I guess I could give you a quick little tour around mine, right? So you can see it lays really flat. I have a 7.5 inch wrist because a little bit higher up it'd be 7.25, a little bit lower, you know, on the wrist, because you can see it, your wrist gets wider as it goes up, versus here it doesn't really seem like that. You know, it kind of has a little bulge at the wrist bone, then it kind of slenders out and then widens again, but you can see it wears really well, nice and flat. It's a real trick in terms of the way that Seiko designs these cases and these watches. Great finishing, you know, it's nothing crazy to write home about in terms of the construction and the material, like it's not super milled or anything, but it flows, right? That's something I think a lot of people don't take into account, is comfort and usability. So everything works the way that it should. It flows, it doesn't feel disruptive, it feels very cohesive in terms of its use and its design. And then the parts that you want to be milled are milled, of course, and it's really nice. So with that said, let's go ahead, get this piece laid out for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, really nicely done Seiko Lumabrite. And what I like to do in these loom segments is work in some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of the times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of a building, walking underneath overhangs, the shade of a tree, or maybe just spending time in your favorite automobile to take advantage of some of that British racing green. And then we could even get into some harsh lighting situations with some very high contrast, which typically would, you know, expose any types of defects within that finish. But you can see how beautifully and evenly the light just glides across that brushing. This dial, look at the play on that dial, the green, super vibrant, just in those little streaks, so very high contrast, where it's relatively going to be a very deep, dark, and serious tone. And then you get that little play there, and then of course that pop of gold is always going to render nice and legible, which is great. So it almost is kind of like a black. You can see black and gold. We know that goes together. So it just hits a lot of really fine notes. And you can see also how beautiful that nice bezel insert is there with its lacquered finish, which is nice and reflective. All right, guys. So in terms of closing thoughts on the wrist, extremely great fitment, feels a touch more balanced, I'd say, than the SPB 143, also better balanced than the actual Marine Master 300 Professional, because this has a thinner case and you know, thicker links, which you know, offset a very thick case with thin links that the Marine Master has. You know, so although that is the big daddy and it does give you 300 meters of water resistance and that 8L movement, it also has a much increased cost compared to this. And this thing is really nice. It gives you a little bit more balance, again, because of the layout, because of the proportions. It's not just about the scale, it's about the proportions. Yes, the Marine Master does have a really small dial, which helps it render smaller, but the actual footprint, not just the visual footprint, the actual footprint is smaller with this one, which I can appreciate. Even though I have a larger size wrist and I can typically pull off some of the bigger stuff, I think this is just you know, a better look in general, and it's just as capable you know, for your daily desk diving duties. Now, in terms of model variants, I own the blue dial with the black bezel insert. There's also, again, like I mentioned, we recently got our hands on the steel bezel insert with the matte black dial. This is the third one on the channel, and I don't think it'll be the last, because now they have these sweet, like, ice diver ones, and you know, this is just a great silhouette. And again, I enjoy it. I'm looking forward to other releases they do, because I love this case. The bracelet's fantastic. I think this is an underloved model just because so many people kind of gravitate towards that more traditional skin diver silhouette of the SPB 143 and that 62 Moss style. But when it comes to iconography, you know, the Seiko Marine Master is right up there in terms of, you know, the 4 o'clock crown and everything, those facets. That even goes into kind of Grand Seiko, you know, design language in terms of, you know, the nice flats that are highly polished and everything, and the geometry of that style. It's just a really great look, and I'm, you know, we're collecting in a good time to collect Seiko. There's a lot of good stuff, and they make more of it, and it's readily available, so I can appreciate that. Now, in terms of comparable models, guys, I'd say, you know, even at the increased cost, this one really holds its own, because it really out heritages, you know, those similar priced and spec'd micro brands, and then it definitely out features I'd say similar Swiss models. You know, when you get into the Swatch Group and whatnot, you're not getting truly in-house. This is in-house to every degree. So I think that's really cool, and you know, something that goes a little, again, undervalued from time to time. In terms of the bottom line on this one, guys, I would just say, again, this piece, this line, these reissues of those kind of main three iconic dive watches from Seiko, it just takes all those in-house qualities, they pack into a diver, again, with a Presage-like finish. Then that's really cool, because as much as people, you know, you hear all this talk from before, at least I remember I would, oh, I'd pay more if they just made it nicer. They did, and yeah, they're charging more. So there's no way you can say that this is comparable to an SKX in terms of the quality. I mean, you look at the bracelet, solid everything. It's just a head and shoulders better executed, applied, well, not applied indices, but raised indices. I mean, you know, with the surrounds, everything is better, and it costs more, and it costs more to produce in this day and age. And yeah, if people, you know, for a company, they're doing well, then then yeah, they probably should get raises and increases and not get laid off, because we're, you know, how would you feel if the company you worked at said, well, we're trying to keep these the same prices from 20 years ago, so, you know, we got to lay you off, or we can't pay you as much, you know, even though you've been doing better and better every year, and increasing quality, you know, in every facet and design, in all these different ways, and you're improving, the product's improving, but hey, we got to limit you just because, you know, we really want to keep those hardcore fans happy that were buying watches for 150 bucks back in the day. You know, literally 20 years ago, when the market's flooded with pieces, versus now, hey, this is a relatively new release, and yeah, they're going to go for closer to, you know, to the MSRP, but at the end of the day, this is Seiko. They produce a lot. You'll be able to find them under MSRP, and I'm sure you go to Belmont Watches, you'll be able to find them underneath MSRP as well. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.